What is the weirdest/dumbest thing you did to impress a girl? I was 15. I changed my birthday on Facebook so it's one more day higher than hers, and I waited 7 months until it's her birthday, and I sent her OMG our birthdays are so close, mine is tomorrow, we are meant for each other. I wrote her a poem. It was absolutely terrible, but she loved it. This triggered memories I thought I had forgotten. I was an awkward and shy teenager. Called her on the phone. Had no plan or idea of what I was going to say. Started out with awkward small talk. Was going to ask her out but instead just said some odd, possibly even jerk-like, I can't recall exactly all these years later, things and hung up. I had never called her before or after, nor really ever spoken to her one-on-one. I still think about how that conversation had to be from her end. A random call from someone who she barely knew in passing at school. Anyway, she played it cool afterwards to the extent that she didn't really treat me any different and nobody was the wiser, so that was cool of her. I carried a watermelon from the store to her house, about 4 miles, not too far, 'cause she said she was craving something watermelon flavored. When I was 8 or 9 my crush signed this kid's cast because he broke his arm. Well, I wanted a signature too, so I went home and tried to break my arm. I jumped out of my treehouse but I ended up breaking my collarbone. They put me in a sling instead of a cast and she refused to sign it. I was about 6 years old, had a crush on my neighbor a year older than me. My parents were building a new house and we went to check it out. The second-story deck wasn't finished and we were up there looking out at the yard. I dared her to jump and she refused, so being an idiot boy trying to impress her, I jumped and fractured my left foot and ended up rolling on the ground crying. Needless to say, I did not impress. Thankfully, because I was so small and young, it didn't do any significant damage and I was able to walk shortly after. It was 1987. She loved Joe Elliott from Def Leppard. I ripped up my best pair of jeans and used a curling iron to straighten my hair to try and look like him. The result was way too much Billy Ray Cyrus and not enough Joe Elliott. Other than attend all her handbell recitals, I showed her how flexible I was multiple times be doing standing splits. I was a freshman in high school. I guess it worked because she stalked me for 2 years and then we dated for 2 more years after the stalking. Tried to do a front flip and landed square on my back. When I was 6 or 7 I tried impressing a girl by pissing in my pants. It did not work. I was a sugar daddy before Elle even knew about sugar daddies. 3rd grade, I bought her a snack every day at lunch. It did indeed work though. I don't know, maybe 11, 12 or 13. Me and a friend had a pretend fight outside this girl's house who I fancied. I squirted fake blood from the joke shop up my nose and in my mouth. I thought seeing me covered in blood would impress her. I never got with her. I made her a mixtape. It had some very inappropriate rap songs on it that I had no idea what they meant. We weren't dating. I just liked her. I cringe when I think about this. I drew a ton of things for her, including herself. Just for a guy to steal one of my exercise books and use it to write stuff to her and next day they're a thing. BTW, this has happened multiple times. I ran towards a wall and hit my face against it. Then I lost consciousness while my nose kept bleeding. If you can give us more information please? There's nothing more to say, that was it. I don't know if she was impressed, I didn't know her before that, and I never heard from her after that. Buddy and I were trying to impress a girl by putting a couple cigarettes out on our arms. Had 2 nasty infections that lasted over a month. So dumb. I was in high school. This girl I had a crush on was in almost every school event. I heard she was going to give blood, so I thought it would be a great idea to join and impress her. Went in, sat down, and they started drawing blood. She was there. But before I got the nerve to talk, she was done. So Elle sat there and sat there and sat there. People had come and gone and I was still there. The nurse came over and saw that my blood was not flowing or flowing slow. So she wiggled the needle still stuck in my arm. Seemed like forever. Agony like no other. Then it started flowing. Last time Elle did something physical to impress a woman. When I was 7 I had a crush on a girl, 8, who told me she absolutely loved the smell of petrol. From then on, whenever I went to visit her, I drained about a half-cup petrol from the lawnmower and splashed it all over me. I smelt like a car mechanic every time we were together. Read the whole Harry Potter series to fangirl about it with her. Didn't work out, but glad I read it, lol. I watched an episode of Hannah Montana where they talked about how you can tell a guy's a good or bad kisser by the way he eats an apple. So was essentially making out with an apple while also trying to eat it very noticeably close to my crush while angling my face to make sure she could see how much my mouth was moving. Just read what I said. I'm so fucking dumb, brother. I tried to join the high school choir group to impress a girl. No one really took me seriously because back then I was your typical meathead wrestler. Luckily I changed schools the next year and I didn't have to go through that torture for some girl that barely noticed me. She was an artist, or at least an art school graduate, as a few of my previous girlfriends were. I had no art background, but I smoked marijuana to make up for that. She had given me her number and offered to buy me a drink sometime. I called her up when I was high. I told her that I wanted to reupholster my couch with garbage bags, and asked her which brand she might recommend. That must have been too much even for her free-spirited personality, as she didn't go out with me after all. So I completely blew it with a girl who had taken the initiative to ask me out. I quit smoking pot a year or two after that. I bought a hug for $2. It worked. When I was like 6, I thought I would run headfirst into tree trunks to impress the girls in my class by showing how tough I was. Dumb. A friend took a pencil to the thigh to make me laugh freshman year. He still has the graphite in there 25 years later. Not me, but my friend. In high school, my friends were playing rugby and just when my mate was about to score, he saw some pretty girls walking on the sidewalk and decided to try and impress them by doing a front flip before scoring. He was a big guy, so this was never a good idea, and ended up breaking his collarbone. Still give him shit years later. When I was younger in my uni years, I was hanging out with a girl and we were driving to a sushi restaurant. To try to set the mood and make the car ride fun, I was full out dancing and lip-syncing during the car ride, with no hands on the steering wheel. Think James Corden carpool karaoke. It was all fun and games until I rear-ended someone in rush hour traffic due to being distracted. The driver got out of her car in the middle of traffic, saw there was no mark/scuff and nonchalantly got back in her car and drove off. Safe to say I learned my lesson. Save your energy until you actually sit down for the date. I went out on a date with my girlfriend at the time, her best friend and one of my best friend who was a guy. We went to this pizza joint and he was hitting on our waitress the entire time. She was a lesbian and it was obvious to everyone there, and decided to pick up the bill for the table. He left $100 tip for her and his phone number and he was expecting a call from her. What was the plan here? She was clearly going to eventually figure out your real birthday, or were you just going to double down and try to get your whole family involved in your lie if the relationship lasted? I didn't even think about any of that. I just wanted her to know that our birthdays are close and it's a sign from God that we should be together. Why? I don't know. Got drunk before a calculus test. What a terrible idea. I thought it would make me look cool. Turns out I still got an A and she was pissed I did better than she did. Thankfully realized that she was selfish and bad news, despite being super hot. I was 14 or 15. I found out that she liked Insane Clown Posse's music. I only knew of them as WWF/WCW wrestlers. I bought several of their albums, physical copies, off Amazon and gave em a listen, hoping to impress her that I also knew about their music. I even changed my MySpace page song to something by Insane Clown Posse. A few weeks go by and I brought up ICP to her over AIM chat, and she said she was over them and now she was all about TATU. Well, I enjoyed ICP's music so much that I still bump their older stuff to this day. I'm not a juggalo or nothing, but enjoyed their first few albums. Dumpster diving for booze. First of all, that's super cute op. I hope that worked. I bought a girl LD been crushing on for about 3 months a healing hematite bracelet for $60, that's what I told everyone at least. The reason I wrote bought like that is because we were poor and couldn't afford to shop, but my mom knew I liked her so she went into her jewelry box and found it to give to her. Not a bracelet that says I like you at all. Pretty sure it was bought from a market stall years earlier. Started smoking so we'd have something in common. Broke up 2 weeks later. Haven't seen her in 14 years yet I'm still smoking. Finally, one I can contribute to. Picture it, high school advanced Spanish class. My white as rice ass pretended to be really good at Spanish to impress the girl sitting next to me, who then proceeded to speak right back to me in Spanish, her first language. I slouched in my chair embarrassed and defeated. But she somehow found it super charming and we've been dating ever since, now married for 6 years with a baby on the way. I've written books using her, loosely as a character. I've written 2 songs about her. The thing about big gestures is, usually they're stupid. Winning her over is just about consistently being reliable. Tore branches from trees in middle school. WTF dude. When I met my wife in college, she never heard that you could light a fart. She didn't believe me, and her friend that was in med school said that it wasn't possible because humans don't have the right diet to produce methane gas. I happened to be really gassy at the time, and it was in the summer so I was bumming around in those thin college mesh shorts. I sit down on the couch and pull both my legs back so my ass isn't sticking up in the air. They've lit farts before but they were just medium-sized farts so it was a quick poof of flames and it was gone. On this day however, my gas must have been extra concentrate because when I lit the fart you know that hoop sound when you toss a match in a propane grill after you turn on the gas? It was just like that. Hoop and poof. The amount of gas, combined with the high concentration levels and me forcing the fart out, the flame that came out of my ass looked like a flamethrower. They've never lit one that big so it startled me and when I regained my composure, I looked over and saw my wife gasping for breath laughing so hard. She was like holy shit. No way, still laughing. It was great. I was in high school, bought a huge panda bear 1.50 by 1 m. Transported it to the school in the bus, passed the school with it and waited for about 2 hours for her with it. I was 12 to 13 and the guy I really like used to stay right beneath me and I wrote a 5-page letter to him describing in detail how I felt about him and just threw the pages out of the window in hopes that the pages will somehow reach him and then waited for days for him to respond. Tried to be outgoing when I'm clearly the opposite, so it got awkward real quick. Jumped in a roping arena with my friend's young buffalo bull, thinking I could work it like a rodeo bull. I was a clown/bullfighter at the time. Found out real quick that buffalo move different and they're quicker and more agile than you'd expect. That little bastard made me look like an amateur. I tried to be closer to her. I become her friend. Worst idea ever. She loved butterflies so I went to the forest and trapped probably 20 of them and used them to decorate her door. Actually used Gorilla Glue. Thinking about it now that was actually a sick and cruelty behavior but I did like her so much. Anyways she said yes. And then a year later she left for another dude. In 6th grade, my friend had a birthday party at the local pool. He had a friend who I thought was pretty so at the end, I dried my hair really well by heating it through the friction of rubbing extremely hard and fast. Somehow this worked and I ended up impressing her with my fast drying hair. It also gave her an excuse to play with my hair. I dated her. In 4th grade I saw my crush and another kid try on each other's glasses for fun. Looked like a great way for me to get to her, so I told my mom that my vision was blurry. She took me to the optometrist, watched me lie terribly while racking up a huge bill and wasting everyone's time. We left with no glasses. I still have perfect vision, and she has a kid.